Can the US military prevent a Chinese invasion of Taiwan? We're going to get into that today, guys. We've got a bit of footage for you. It's all good. Let's get straight into it. Boom.
Administration calls China the most consequential strategic competitor for the United States now and for decades to come. One major source of tension, Taiwan.
She sounds like an old army general, been smoking on that tobacco.
The island democracy is supported by the U.S., but China considers it a breakaway province and has vowed to use force if necessary to unify. Nick Schifrin recently traveled to the American Military Command in the Pacific, tasked with preparing for any future conflict with China.
Who is this news anchor? I like her. She sounds like she belongs in like a Rambo news article or something.
300 miles off the coast of Hawaii, the shooters and the F-18 are ready.
Hell yeah.
Pilots
buddy.
fly off the U.S.'s oldest operational aircraft carrier to try and guarantee what the U.S. calls a free and open Indo-Pacific, an area that covers half the planet's surface.
This is the thing. Is it free if the United States wants to get involved, to prevent Chinese invasion of Taiwan? They want to keep those waters free of, not completely free of the Chinese presence, but certainly stop the expansion of Chinese presence within those waters. Obviously, it's a massive strategic point for the United States in terms of being able to launch into these areas from, okay? But in terms, they always talk about we need to prohibit China from moving, but is it really United States wanting to gain overall superiority of those waters? Okay, this is the bit where it gets a bit confusing. What is really going on here?
We flew here on a cargo plane designed to land on carriers, invited by Indo-Pacific Command to see what the military calls the Joint Force, how each military service contributes to the fight.
I consider the aircraft carrier and the strike group the cornerstone of the Joint Force, frankly.
Navy Rear Admiral Christopher Sweeney commands the USS Nimitz Carrier Strike Group.
Look at that. So that is just some footage, but the actual size of the strike group that United States have, they've got like humongous super carriers with like 20, 30, 40, 50, ships. This is just a very small portion of what they've got in terms of overall capability, guys. Just remember that when we're speaking.
It typically deploys with a half dozen ships. It's one of the U.S.'s most visible projections.
So obviously this is a different one he's just mentioned there. Half dozen ships, my bad.
Of power that could one day help deter China from attacking Taiwan.
Hopefully the Chinese Communist Party, the CCP, recognizes that, and that we're just making them think like this is not the day that they want to do that.
USS Nimitz has more than 5,000 sailors, 70 jets, including F-18s. But the Chinese have made sure that this carrier is vulnerable by producing some of the most advanced missile systems on the planet.
In 2021, the People's Liberation Army tested more missiles than the rest of the world combined. China's arsenal.
I didn't know that. Obviously, they're a rising threat in terms of their own neighbouring countries, but if you look at what's going on even in India as well, all right, the Indian-Chinese border, there's problems there, all right? There is countries who are wanting to command and conquer, take over little chunks of land at a time and just capitalise on that and continue that momentum. We're seeing that in Russia and Ukraine at this moment in time. And, Russia and China seem to be thick as thieves at this moment in time. So are we seeing a change in the global power structure? Are we seeing the rise of other countries trying to get involved in this overall world police situation, which we've got? I understand that, the way Americans do things, I'm really happy with. I know there's problems within the military as well, and the way the governments operate around the world. We can all agree on that. There's various different problems, but who would you choose to be world police? All right, I would certainly be choosing the United States. Some people say, well, they've done bad. Listen, I'm not saying they haven't done bad in wars. They've also done great things, okay? But no one's perfect. But if you had to choose, I'd be choosing America all day long, troops. I don't know if you agree with that. Let me know in the comments, man.
Arsenal is designed to make the U.S. think twice before defending Taiwan and to keep U.S. ships away. A Defense Department map shows anti-ship missiles with a range of 1,200 miles. A Chinese state-owned aerospace company even created a propaganda animation showing its missiles destroying an aircraft carrier.
Is that propaganda though, or is that what the missiles are designed for? Isn't propaganda if that's what it's intended for? Do you understand? How can that be propaganda? And it didn't show an American flag or anything, so it's just shown what it's militarily capable of. We all do that. In the British military, in the American military, doesn't matter. There's footage of, what you're capable of doing. Is that propaganda? Well, it is if you're on the opposite side, okay?
I think about it each and every day, every second, because...
This guy didn't seem like a rear admiral. Now, I'm not saying that in a bad way. He just didn't seem like it. Seems like a regular guy who, would be an electrician or something. Seems like a normal dude, the way he speaks and stuff. He's got sweat on his head. He has got sweat on his head, actually. Let me see if you can see that.
And when I left the pier, I told my wife the only thing I cared about is that I brought every sailor back safe.
I like that with the Yanks. The Americans, they really do think of their own and respect. Credit where due.
There's a lot of people who worry that carriers are sitting ducks. What do you think?
Yeah, so I would say I can maneuver, right? I just don't sit in one spot in the ocean. It's a pretty big ocean. It's pretty hard to target something in the ocean. I hear that a lot, like the carrier's at risk. Air bases don't move very fast the last time I checked. So that's sort of a joke, but not.
He's got a good point. The Navy gets a lot of naive comments like that. When I was in the Royal Marines Commandos, there was loads of similar comments, but in a phrase differently. And when you think about it logically, yeah, an airstrip on land, that's not going to move anytime soon. We all know where they are, all right? The freedom of information gives us all of the locations for most things now, okay? Very hard to hide anything. Ships, yeah, they can pretty much launch and change direction when they please, and he's right on that, I think.
That's a reference to U.S. Air Force bases. Today, there are 9 main Pacific bases. The Air Force plans to use more small bases in the future because a more distributed footprint could complicate Chinese war.
Oh, look at that. That's a good bit of kit, isn't it, eh?
War planning. Colonel Jared Pasley is the Pacific lead for a program designed to execute that plan.
I think carriers, aircraft, everything is vulnerable. No bones about it. We're tied to the ground. And if you only have so many main operating bases forward, especially in host nations and partners, that makes the targeting calculus way too simple for an adversary. So we've got to get out, we've got to get distributed.
Protecting those distributed bases would be the job of the U.S. Army. On this day, these soldiers practice lifting and
I miss this stuff, I'm not going to lie. The older I get, the more I miss it. I didn't initially when I first left the military, but just seeing these beasts in operation, I just think, I would love to be in the back of one of those things with my weapon system pointing out and just embracing it, man. I wish I embraced the military more when I was in.
Moving 9,300-pound artillery. In the Pacific, the Army will have to be able to island hop with their weapons, be able to set up quickly, and fire. The Army is developing longer-range missiles than it currently has that could better target Chinese ships, airfields, and command centers. And the Army deploys missile defenses to protect U.S. bases.
It's only the Army that provides those ground-based air defense capabilities at scale and at capacity.
Major General Brian Gibson leads the Army's 94th Air and Missile Defense Command. Last year, for the first time, his unit conducted the U.S.'s first live-fire exercises from Australia and Palau.
The ability to operate over greater expanded geographical distance.
He sounds like a general, doesn't he? He sounds like one, man. He's like fresh out of the war movies, this guy. This is the thing I love about America. It's like the stereotype that they live up to the reputation of the stereotype. And they've got a good stereotype. Me being the British military, we understand what these guys are like. And they live up to that, troops. Trust me.
Is essential for the joint force and essential for us. We live in a dangerous neighborhood.
How vulnerable are U.S. bases across the region?
Oh, they're all vulnerable to Chinese missiles.
Michael Swain directs the East Asia program at the Quincy Institute, a think tank that advocates restraint, and is a former senior policy analyst at the RAND Corporation.
He looks high as hell, doesn't he? Let's have a look at that again. I've just been looking at this dude. Look at them eyes. He's had a couple of edibles in there, hasn't he?
It's restraint, and is a former senior policy analyst at the RAND Corporation. He says the U.S. in the Pacific is more vulnerable than it admits and needs to move faster to protect its bases.
Yeah, I agree. I think they need to put a little bit more development, especially even, let's talk about this. So in terms of military hardware, yes, we always need to keep up to date, and America's been at the forefront with keeping up to date with military hardware, been at the forefront of that, okay? But in terms of the soldier, the sailor, the airman, we need to look at what China's doing. They've actually got programs in place to make their males more masculine. Now, you might think, well, yeah, so what's that got to do with anything? Well, tell you what, guys, when there's war, you need masculine men to fight these wars. Don't listen to anyone talking to you about, it doesn't really matter, you know, if the males are feminine, and no, listen, it matters. We need warriors to fight wars. And that's one of the big problems at this moment in time. That's part of the problem with the military right now, is it's okay to have females in. I'm all for it, but we need to also make damn sure that the knife edge is as masculine and as mean as possible, because we'll be in big trouble. Because guess what? The programs that are ongoing in the likes of China, they're not stopping, and they're actually progressing. They've actually got programs in place to make their males more masculine in the military. Think about that now for a second, and you tell me what you think of it.
He also fears the U.S. is increasing its capabilities and capacity in the Pacific could lead to the very war it's trying to deter.
There is no magic bullet, no new technology.
Is that Mr. Edible? Yeah, Michael Swain, he's... Is it just me, or am I being a bit biased, guys? These eyes look a little bit... I don't know, man. He's been on something, isn't he?
That is going to be developed that will ensure that the United States...
Now, if he has got anything wrong with him, I want to make quite clear that I'm not pointing anything out negatively, all right? I'm just saying that. Now, I've just noticed that his right eye there, or his left eye, there might be something wrong with that. If that is the case, I retract everything.
States can, without question, deter...
Oh, no, there, he's opened it. Yeah, he is just eating edibles.
...the Chinese from attacking Taiwan purely militarily. You need to have some level of real, credible reassurance on the one China policy. America's continued commitment to the notion that it's open to a peaceful, uncoerced, possible unification of China with Taiwan.
Swain is not alone in his skepticism.
I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think this unification and, peace talks is one, trying to resolve the situation with Taiwan. We can talk about it till kingdom come. The fact of the matter is China wants Taiwan, and I think whatever we do is going to stall that potentially for a period of time, but inevitably they're going to try and get what they want, which is the landmass of Taiwan. Tell me I'm wrong.
I think we have to be quite careful about our actions, because you can stumble into things.
Retired four-star Navy Admiral Michael Fallon was the commander here at Indo-Pacific Command from 2005 to 2007. The current commander, Admiral John Aquilino, invited him and every living former commander to celebrate the command's 75th anniversary.
Should the U.S. and China cooperate more?
In many ways, I think that's the right answer. But I think there's, from my view, far too much war talk, if you would, particularly around Washington.
I really agree with that, and that shot there is fantastic. We've paused on the right bit at the right time.
Taiwan is increasing its defense spending and expanding its conscription, but many experts believe it's not doing enough.
It won't do enough. It can't do enough. It's limited just by the geography of the place. It's not that big, okay? So you can do a lot. You can do a lot more, but it's not gonna prevent. Let's say if China wanted to have a full-scale invasion of Taiwan, could they really prevent that? I don't care how much spending they spend. It's about landmass, isn't it, really?
And Fallon questions whether the U.S. should come to Taiwan's defense until Taiwan proves it can defend itself.
Why does it always have to be the United States, though? That's the question. I know I speak to a lot of United States military personnel, non-military personnel, civilians, you name it, and a lot of them are actually, one thing that I'll say with the US, they're quite happy to support people in need, but when they're not necessarily in need and it's a problem that seems to be cured out of nothing, it's like they're not really bothered about that. They want to solve their own problems first, and I can completely understand that. But the question remains, why US? Why the United States in this matter? Do you know what I mean? Let me know.
In my opinion, there's a lot more they could do, and that would be helpful if their actions matched their aspirations, let's say.
A key part of the U.S. strategy to deter China is bolstering alliances with Pacific allies. Those allies are increasing their defense spending, and U.S. officials say they're more willing to discuss coming to Taiwan's aid. Retired Admiral Thomas Fargo was the commander here from 2002 to 2005.
I mean, I'm not clued up on the whole thing, right? But why don't we just stop buying stuff from China? That would probably hurt them a little bit, right? I mean, we're directly funding all of their potential things that they want to do and pursue and achieve. So just stop buying stuff off them. That might be a good place to start.
The international community is what is going to deter China from taking action.
The U.S. military here wants to move faster to improve its capabilities to deter the People's Republic of China, or PRC. Retired Admiral Harry Harris.
Oh, yes. That is a nice stash there, sir. Rather ripping indeed.
Was the U.S. ambassador to South Korea from 2018 to 2021 after serving.
So it's a civilian thing. Yes, I had my tash when I was still serving.
Was the commander here for 3 years.
As the PRC continues
It's off again. What the hell? Is that a fake tash?
To improve its capabilities, improve its weapon systems,
Harry Harris,
influence its partners, then we have to do the same and more, because we have to stay ahead of the PRC in all mission areas related to warfare.
Yeah, can't disagree with Harry Harris.
In the waters of Pearl Harbor sits perhaps the best example of the U.S.'s staying ahead of the People's Republic of China in warfare.
Yeah, we don't have to go down memory lane for us all to know what happened there, do we? Yeah. That alone should make us realize that it's very important for even Britain that the United States stays ahead of the game, because, you know, we are heavily reliant on the United States for many, many reasons, okay? The US goes down, we all go down with them.
With a quick salute to the ship's namesake, Navy Commander Carlos Martinez walks me on board the USS Missouri. He leads the crew of a nuclear-powered fast attack submarine that costs more than $3.5 billion to procure.
Yeah, rather than, all right, guys, this is one area that I'm glad I didn't go in. The submarine's hideous, all right, hideous conditions, not for me. And here's a question, why the hell has he got camouflage on in the ocean waves? US Navy. What's he doing there? I never understood that, man. The only guys in the Royal Navy really who will wear camouflage are Navy commandos, all right, or those who would have a green element to their military practice. I don't understand what green element there is to the submarines. It's stupid to me.
And it's named for the battleship that hosted Japan's surrender.
This piece of teak here is a piece of teak that the Pearl Harbor Naval Shipyard got for us from the battleship Missouri.
That is unbelievably
The crew
awesome.
shows how they get a torpedo ready to launch.
Weapon entering tube! Hey!
Besides torpedoes that can attack ships, these Virginia-class submarines can carry cruise missiles to attack targets on land. It is the one system that experts agree is the most difficult to detect, and it can sail through what for the Chinese are the most sensitive waters.
Yeah. If the operational commander tells me as a ship that he wants me to go to a certain area via a certain route that's international waters, then that's certainly within our right to do so.
Does that include the Taiwan Strait?
The international waters of the Taiwan Strait are available for navigation.
And I think what he needs to add to that is it's available for navigation, but it's within their capability to do just that. Okay, that's one thing. It's all right being allowed to. It's another thing being able to. And to being able to very effectively, United States submarines are very, very capable indeed.
The U.S. calls China the only country with the intent and power to challenge U.S. influence long term. And so, regardless of any debate, the U.S. military is accelerating its posture in the Pacific.
Well, oh, wrong one there. So if you made it to the end, smash the like button. I like these little topics, little reaction videos that we're doing. Might start doing them again because I've been slacking of recent. I've been focusing on my physical fitness and getting back into the boxing. So, yeah, troops, you want to support me, please consider joining the Patreon. Patreon's below. Ad-free, uncensored content on there because everything's getting censored now at this moment in time. So it's really hard to make a living off it. But anyway, I'm not going to bore you anymore. Thank you for being here. See you next time, troops.